You're on.
Monday, June 3rd.
Okay, it's Monday, June 3rd, and I'm calling the meeting to order. First order of business is salute the flag. Pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business is we're going to have our second public hearing on the proposed grant of a property easement to Lakes Region Conservation Trust pursuant to RSA 41:14-A. The Selectmen will hold a second public hearing to grant property easements to the Lakes Region Conservation Trust for property located in the Great Meadow, tax map lots 31-1-1, 31-1-2, 31-1-5, and 17-1-2. Public hearing will take place today, June 3rd, 9 a.m., town offices, 240 Middle Road, Center, Tuftonboro. In addition to that, I have the report from the planning board stating the planning board reviewed the proposed conservation easement, made two motions relevant to such. However, the discussion and subsequent motions were based on an agreement between the chair and the Conservation Commission and the chair of the planning board to present a proposal to each of their boards. Matt Young, planning board chair, has asked that until the proposal is presented to and discussed by the Conservation Commission at their meeting on May 20th, that the decision of the planning board not be disclosed. So,
That's an old one. That's an old
And
one.
it was,
It should be behind this. Yeah.
um,
Sorry. One more.
the planning board has been requested to provide a recommendation relative to this conservation easement. It was moved by Kate Nesbitt and seconded by Laureen Hadley to recommend the Board of Selectmen grant the Conservation Commission's request to place a conservation easement on tax map 31-1, 31-2, 31-5, 31-1-5, 17-1-2. All members voted in favor. The motion passed. It was moved by Tony Triolo and seconded by Kate Nesbitt to recommend the Board of Selectmen in the strongest terms, you know what that means, to enter into a long-term forest management plan for all timber properties owned by the town of Tuftonboro, and proceeds from the timber harvest is to be properties of those properties to be split equally between the Conservation Commission and the town's general fund. Well, that's not going to happen. All members voted in favor. So the planning, it isn't going to happen because we're not going to get direction from the planning board on where the money goes. So the Conservation Commission obviously has approved this. The planning board's approved it. Is there any public comment? Other than my editorializing?
You're the public. Yeah, I'm the public now.
I have one thing to add.
Sure.
Matt came to the Conservation Commission meeting and made a very good presentation about forestry management. And you couple that with a retired forester right here, and it was a positive, productive meeting. And it's my understanding that a citizen has stepped forward to pay for the forest management plan, so there's no dollars out of your committee, our committee, anybody else. Is that a fair accuracy?
Yes, that's correct.
Have I missed
A
anything?
verbal commitment.
Have I missed anything?
Yes.
Have I missed anything?
No, I think what we probably do is solicit some of the local certified foresters and licensed foresters who can produce this kind of a plan, get a cost estimate, go back to that potential donor, get the donor to donate the money to the town for trust fund to pay for this, and then hire the forester to do the work.
Yeah, we had they still have, hoping, but all the time that I was at the county, and prior to that, there was a forester who managed the asset of the forest, which has created a healthy forest and a reasonable revenue stream that
Right.
offset taxes. And we're gathering together more and more property.
The second point is if there are proceeds down the road, I agree with you. This is not the time to do that. The other thing is, I wouldn't vote at this time to lock future boards of selectmen into something. It's up to them to manage the town's affairs.
This is sort of like the property coming out of current use.
Yes.
It's an issue that
Well,
people have to vote on.
yes.
It's a revenue issue.
It's in one question that I have, and I don't know that it may have been researched, but there may not be authority to do that anyway.
Yeah.
You know, the creation of the conservation fund and ways that it can be, that monies can go into it are specified in an RSA. I don't know if there's anything that would allow the board, should we choose to split the money that way, to do that. I do think that having a forest management plan for the town lands makes perfect sense. It's a way not only to manage the asset for the town, but to serve as an example to local landowners if they're looking for a model to follow as to, you know, the best way to do it.
There is a state authorized program, it's called Town Forests, where those are the objectives. And UNH Cooperative Extension provides a lot of expertise for that. When I first joined the commission, one of the first things I did was try to go find an opportunity for us to do that. And we don't have any property that lends itself to management at this time because
or declaring it a town forest.
Well, yeah,
you're starting to get
it requires a little work
Yeah.
to declare a town forest,
Yeah.
which includes a plan. It's something I thought I would do as a volunteer, so it wouldn't cost the town anything, and it just hasn't come up on my priority list. It's something that could spin off of this hiring a forester to come up with a plan for the appropriate properties. I'm going to take another look, but I think we only have 2 that actually would qualify, or it would pay for themselves to manage as forest property.
Because that's the other, Steve does a good job, and the Conservation Commission does a good job of calculating their annual expenses, et cetera. So I would think if there's a forest management plan or cost involved, that the Conservation Commission is going to include that in the budget, and going forward, they'll have the capital to make sure it happens. Are we ready to vote?
I am.
Okay.
Excuse me, you can't vote yet.
You have to vote
Can't
next
vote?
week.
Jeez,
Right.
why not?
Right.
So wait, not
All
Monday,
right,
yeah.
we're not gonna vote. So while we have Steve here,
Yeah.
there's a chain link fence put up on the Brookside, 19 mile Brookside of the highway. Somebody mentioned it to me the other day, I haven't been down there. Did the state put that up?
19 Mile Brook.
Across 109 from the town beach,
Oh,
on the upstream side.
I have no idea.
I hadn't heard it, and I guess it's pretty tall. It's right up against the water.
Huh.
And I don't know, how wide is that highway easement?
Not really sure.
Yeah.
On the water side?
No,
No,
on the
backside.
backside,
Where the parking lot is?
upstream. Well, no, it's by 19 Mile Brook, so it's quite a ways from the parking lot. I don't know.
Visible from the road?
Pardon me?
It's visible from the road?
Yeah, I guess it.
Because I drive by there all the time and I haven't seen.
I haven't been looking for it either.
Well, I can't, speak to my source, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't been down either. I'll go down this afternoon.
I can look on my way home today.
Yeah, it just seemed,
But I have no news, I know nothing about anything like that.
Next,
All right.
Next
You're gonna
thing.
close the public hearing?
Yeah.
You're gonna close the public hearing?
okay, I'll close the public hearing, but I still wanted to talk to Steve.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion that we close this public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I ask I just
No,
want-
let's close, we're done.
No, I wanted to ask a question.
Right.
Clarification. So this idea of a forester came up in conjunction with this property, or is it totally separate?
It came up in conjunction with the meeting about this property.
But it's two separate things, two separate issues.
I think the forester's a more expansive topic than this particular easement. I don't think,
I believe it's a recommendation by the planning board,
yeah.
which the Conservation Commission has agreed to. And with a private citizen volunteering the cost.
But it's all the conservation land in the town, it's not just these two pieces or three pieces.
All forested
Yeah.
property, yeah.
Okay, so it just was sparked by this Great Meadows
It
conservation.
was a previous discussion between primarily Matt and myself. Matt felt that we're basically taking land off the tax rolls and conserving it, and if it could, it should pay for itself somehow.
By proper forest management.
Yeah, and I agree with that. The only thing that where we didn't agree was I couldn't see prioritizing that at this time, because this particular property that we're acquiring, it's half wetlands to start with.
And it's just recently been logged,
Every tree you could possibly sell,
has been
that
sold.
was the objective of the operation, has been sold. And
Oh,
it will
okay.
be a long time,
Yeah.
in my estimation, over 40 years, before you could consider another product removal of any kind. And then the other property I know of in town is still a long ways from a sustainable, what you would call a sustainable harvest. In other words, a harvest that makes sense
Yeah.
for long-term management. So prioritizing money right now for that purpose. Now, there are other purposes. There are other types of forest management that you can call investments. They cost money. In some places it's planting trees, in some cases it's what's called pre-commercial thinning, where you take some of the competition away from the best trees. But they are investments. They are generally investments that don't pay for themselves, because the cost of stumpage is a long story, but the cost of stumpage is artificially low because of the kind of ways we harvest today. Taking the best whenever it comes along, that's kind of the way people manage forests without a long-term objective. And that kind of keeps the price of stumpage down. So you really can't pay for those kind of investments. Other things like controlling invasive weeds, that's something that's happening out there in this property that we're acquiring, because a lot of sunlight has been brought in, there's a soil disturbance. These
Would that
seeds
be included
aggressively
in a
take
forest
over.
management?
Huh?
Would that be included in forest management?
Yeah, so you hire a licensed forester to create a management plan for you, and there's no real opportunity to harvest something for a profit. The management plan is going to say things like, you could do this if you wanted to, you could do that if you wanted to. So that's probably the kind of things that are going to be in the plan, and we would have those opportunities if we wanted to make investments.
And part of the discussion, I'm sure, is triggered by the fact that we're taking the property into conservation, but it's still going to be open for recreational use, hunting and fishing. And I think forestry was mentioned in those restrictions. So that brings the topic up, how you manage your forest.
And it can be a strategy as well for future management. If a property like that goes untouched, used recreationally, and goes untouched for 40 or 50 years, and then suddenly somebody comes along with this idea, let's harvest some trees. Those people who have been enjoying that recreationally, they tend to be offended. They say, what? You're going to destroy this great property? But if the idea that forest management is always sometime in the future, maybe a sign here and there, maybe a discussion in a selectmen meeting or something like that, it keeps people aware that that's part of the package. The other thing about a forest plan provides some protection for the future, best management practices. It declares that. But the easement also does that. So that was another reason I wasn't in favor of spending money on a forest plan right now. The easement actually covers all of those protections. The forest management part is one of the longest parts in the easement if you read it. And it references a document that's about this thick, which is called best management or good management in the Granite State. And it's just about everything you want to know about modern forest technology is in there. So it was just a low priority for me.
And it's not a, I mean, I kind of have a problem with the idea that we're going to make up the difference that we're losing in tax value. The land wasn't taxed very hard anyway. So, I mean, just having a nice environment for species and wildlife and birds and the rest of it and recreation, I mean, I think that's got an intangible benefit that.
But you can accomplish some of those objectives with forest management practices too.
Sure.
So it's why you hire somebody, an educated, experienced forester to do those kind of things. They know what those options are.
Anything else for Steve Wingate? Oh, I was going to ask you, you did a performance review on your secretary?
I did.
Okay. We're going to review that. I don't know if we need to go into non-public. Probably should.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that something he needs to be here for? It was pretty explicit.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty clear about it.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
great. Thanks.
I was waiting for the public part, but
Sure.
I have two questions.
Okay, public input.
There you go.
Here we go.
I have to remember what they are. Oh, yeah, okay. So you may recall that we were working on the idea of an easement in the middle of Cow Island on the town property. And I think the last thing we did anything was the Island Association meeting. The Conservation Commission hasn't done anything since. And I don't recall exactly how it was, but I was talking to you guys at some point after that, and I got the impression that you weren't as enthusiastic about the idea anymore.
Well, we are in the process of
Okay.
granting an easement for a.
The only reason I'm
septic system.
asking, we are full up with work, so it's
Yeah.
not something we're looking to jump back into.
Well, speaking for myself, I will say that I don't see putting a conservation easement on the Cow Island parcels is a high priority. A lot of the discussion and feedback, I believe, that we got from property owners was more along the lines of how do we keep other people from getting to that property and using it.
I would say that was the loudest, that
Yes.
wasn't the majority.
Okay, well, and, you know,
Welcome to America.
yeah, town-owned property shouldn't be about how you prevent people
Public use.
from using it. You know, the idea from those folks is, well, they're abutters on Cow Island and they'd like a private preserve that nobody else has access to,
Right.
that's, nobody's gonna come in there and disturb them, and it's just backland for them that the town has. And isn't that a nice thing? And that's certainly not my idea of what you do with town-owned properties, as you know, Steve. You and I have had conversations over the years about how do we make the town-owned parcels more accessible to people for use.
And I think that was the focus of the Conservation Commission when it first got into it. It was, how to make that more valuable town property, but at the same time ensure that in the future, it wouldn't be developed.
Well, two things. First, we did make a priority of making sure all of the septic systems that are on the shoreline of Cow Island are in compliance. And in that regard, we're about to grant an easement to a property owner for a leach field inside the town-owned land. So knowing that as a priority, I did have a chat with Don Barry of the Lakes Region Conservation. And it sort of ended up with, if you've got that many property owners around the shoreline, if even half of them have to invade the public property with a leach field, the management of that, it just becomes onerous for somebody like Lakes Region or the Conservation Commission. So maybe the way it sits right now is the best way to have it. It's just town-owned property. And then we come up with a usage plan for the beach and all the rest of it. But I mean, they weren't willing to entertain the idea of taking that property, taking a conservation easement on that property, and then trying to manage the septic systems. You know, it's just more than they wanted to do. So, and I don't think we want to. I mean, I don't want to. I'm sure my brother Selectmen will speak to it, but I'm more interested in keeping those septic systems in compliance than I am with the use of the center of that island. You know, it's for, that's going to do more good for the lake than holding the land in perpetuity or whatever. I think we can probably, we only elect a selectman every year. There's continuity in the board enough, I think, to keep that land pretty safe for quite a while.
It's also self-limited. It's a pretty unique piece of property. It's not like a builder's gonna put condos in the center of an island, so.
And we did get a variety of input from abutters when we sent out the notice, and I promised them all that we would keep them informed.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the next thing to do is to discuss it at our next Conservation Commission meeting, and then I would send out a little newsletter of where we are with it, which, if nothing else, is going to be at least postponed for now.
Yeah.
Depending on what the other.
Well, until we get all of the, I'm sure there's more than one or two cottages out there that need to get their septic system in order. So until we get through that, I think we're on hold.
Okay, my other question was about the cyanobacteria identification training.
Is there an end to that sentence?
June 26th. I recommended that we at least send our waterfront personnel.
Our Parks and Rec director?
Yeah,
Okay.
and as far as I know, we haven't signed anybody up. Larry Gill and I are signed up.
Okay.
What about our health
That reminds-
officer?
That reminds me, I did tell Dennis, I wonder if he forgot. I asked,
Dennis, he signed up?
I mentioned it to him,
Okay.
and he was gonna have the lifeguards do it, but I don't remember where we ended with that. I think I asked him to go on the Wolfboro website and sign up.
Okay,
But I'm not sure if he did.
okay.
What about our health officer?
I didn't ask him, but
I haven't talked to him.
It's not gonna do any good to have us go.
I'm on a committee for this. This was stimulated by the bloom in Winter Harbor,
Right.
which was real. And there have been other blooms on the lake, which were real. There's some new research that indicates that where you have frequent blooms, like they do in Lake Champlain, in Vermont, and Mascoma, and New Hampshire, there is a spike or hotspot for ALS, statistically. Which is,
Really?
yeah, and there was some previous research on Okinawa, I believe, where they have this problem and it's linked to cyanobacteria, and they think it's effervescing into the atmosphere, so the people who live around it, when they have a bloom, are actually breathing in a compound which stimulates your body. That ALS isn't understood, there's no cure for it. You know, they don't know, they haven't identified a cause, but there is a statistical link between cyanobacteria blooms and people having ALS. That's a pretty significant link in terms of statistical numbers. So that's kind of the latest news. So it's kind of a hot item.
The latest hot item.
Good news for us, eh?
We're likely the increase statistical increase of the potential for a cyanobacteria bloom already increases every year in almost any lake. But a lake that's as occupied as Winnipesaukee. The difference between Winnipesaukee and almost any other lake is dilution. We have a lot more water there per shoreline resident, so to speak. So we're one of the last to get some of these kind of things.
So that hasn't happened in the smaller ponds? Or we just don't know?
It tends to happen on smaller ponds
Mirror Lake?
where you have,
Beach Pond?
in shallower ponds where you have more people per acre of water, so to speak. You know, Mirror Lake's had one.
So if there are no people, there's no bacteria? Is that what you're
Cyanobacteria is there, it doesn't bloom.
Well,
The
so if
people,
we get rid of the people.
the action of people, it makes it bloom.
That's right, all right.
So
Just a thought.
have you ever heard the term blue-green algae? That's actually cyanobacteria. It's a bacteria that knows how to conduct photosynthesis chemically and can do that. So it reacts to sunlight. You give it enough phosphorus, it loves phosphorus. Its population grows. Give it some sunlight, it rises. If it's the right kind of wind, the stuff gets concentrated at one end of a pond or a lake, such that it can actually be a gooey green mess. Pets that go down and drink that die. We humans look at that and say, wow, I'm glad I didn't drink it. But there are public water systems like the city of Erie, Pennsylvania, had to shut down for 2 weeks, 2 summers ago, because there was a bloom right over where their intake was. And the bad thing about cyanobacteria is when you kill it, it becomes toxic.
So blooms don't last forever though?
Nope.
They're
Sometimes they're gone by the time they're identified, and so that's the issue. You take like a 19-mile beach, somebody looks at some green stuff there and says, are we having a bloom? Do we get everybody out of the water? What do? By the time you take a sample, send it to a lab, get a result, it's long over.
Yeah.
So this committee in Wolfboro is trying to come up with a system so that people who are on the front line, say lifeguards, park and rec type people, when they see something, should they be concerned? If they're concerned, what do? So that's where that is. There's a meeting at 1 o'clock today where there's going to be a proposal for how to react. I don't need another meeting, but that's where that is. But I didn't know. Maybe Parks and Rec is signed up.
I'll check with them. I don't know, but if you end up,
I know that the original class was at 9 and 11:30, or 10 and 11:30, and that class was filled up right away. Then they put on another class. It's going to be in the afternoon, and that class is filled up right now.
oh,
Wow.
So
You had a question or a
I
statement?
just wanted to say that the Water Summit was filmed, and it's on wolfboronh.com, I think, or .us, the Wolfboro website. And you can look up, especially Dr. Haney's, the science and the biology. He went into it quite extensively. exactly what it's talking about as far as the danger, so.
The bloom we had in Winter Harbor was real. I got samples. Lauren Moore got samples. They were identified as cyanobacteria. And it's a non-toxic kind, which is the good news. But what stimulates that bacteria, that cyanobacteria, is the same one that stimulates any of the others that are more toxic.
Okay, any other public input?
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. I didn't know whether or not we had approved the sealed minutes for May 10th. Anybody know?
Huh? I think they, yeah, they do.
Yeah, I think we just have the 20th. so-
Okay. So the public meeting for May 20th,
I have one for
me too, what's yours?
Please go to page 1. 5 paragraphs down under appointments. Then go to the 9th line that starts with liability that may fall on the town. Go to the end of that sentence where it says swap shop, period. And Selectman Wood added that he has 12 people and 4 civic organizations to volunteer to man the swap shop, and they declined. That stays. Please add, quote, "Those 4 civic organizations already make contributions to the town, which we appreciate."
And did you say that at the time?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Because I'm not gonna add language that we're
I'm
not.
not, it's only, did I say it or did I not say it?
Okay. Anything else?
Other than that, I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
I'll move approval as
I've got a
corrected.
change on 2, third paragraph, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th line down. Second sentence, as paving plans, I'm gonna change the word swayed, which I'm gonna think is maybe not the best term,
Okay.
to varied
Mhm.
from the Lakes Region Planning Commission. And that's it. You move approval? I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have non-public from the 20th. Any changes?
No.
I move approval as presented.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I don't know that, does this need to remain sealed?
I don't think so.
Okay, then I'm gonna make a motion that we unseal these.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. That's it.
Can we discuss this subject while we're
Sure.
here?
Absolutely.
So in this non-public session,
Excuse me.
we were meeting with council on the cable TV franchise agreement, which I believe expires in about 3 years. And one of the things that we, as we start the process of getting ready to renegotiate the agreement, that will be helpful to us is input from folks in the community who are cable system customers as it relates to any issues or interaction they have with the cable TV company, as well as any other observations that they may have relative to the cable TV. There are provisions in our current contract about availability of customer service and I believe service personnel by phone, responsiveness to calls and that sort of thing. And it's my thought, my belief that the people that are going to have the most experience with that are customers. Some may have no need for interfacing, but if we have individuals who have had a particular experience in trying to deal with customer service and or repair at the with the cable company. It would be helpful to us to understand their experience, and then we can evaluate whether it's whether they're meeting the contractual terms in the current agreement.
Yeah, the other part, excuse me, part of that is availability of service. There are still people in town that don't have cable for whatever reason. And I don't know that a system's in place for them to appeal the decision not to have cable delivered to them. So that's another part of that discussion with the public.
Well, as far as I know, my understanding is, and it was certainly my experience, that cable can be available to anybody in town. It's just a question of how much you want to pay the cable company to run cable from where their existing system is to where you are. And the installation amounts for these runs is not trivial. I mean, I want to say in the tens of thousands of dollars to get them to extend beyond wherever current closest point is into a street that's not being served.
Yeah, I just know that contractually they're obligated to put a connection in if the houses are
Certain density.
certain distance apart. The other thing is their stock value is premised upon connection. So this cost of installation I find a little bit of a less convincing argument.
I think our brother here is spot on. There's two people that I rely on. Is anyone who understands Time Warner and the frustrations? He's sitting right over there. And the other is Clay Gallagher. It took him a year to get the appropriate internet access. So,
Okay.
right on, Bill.
So signature file. Should we do that next?
Red.
Yeah, I just wondered if that's stuff. Okay, the first item for signature is a yield tax levy, map and lot 42-2-13.
I'll move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next item is, we've got a switching of positions on the Conservation Commission. Raymond Everest is going to become a alternate and be replaced by Laurel Hodson, who is currently an alternate.
I'll move approval of those appointments.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So there's two names.
The next item for signature is what I was discussing with our Conservation Commission chairman. It's a septic easement for 119 Cow Island, map and lot 37-1-219. And it has been reviewed by council, and it's granting, there's a map enclosed. You guys have looked at this, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So we're granting an easement for this residence to move their septic leach field onto town property on Cow Island. So it's utilizing the center of the island for that purpose.
And as I recall, we earlier had a concern about the specific location of that easement relative to the property. And again, as I recall, some subsequent conversations based upon where other septic systems are up there, they cannot go directly behind their property.
So they wanted to group them for some reason.
Yeah. So I will move approval of that easement.
I will second it with the following comment.
Okay?
I checked with Jack, who has a working knowledge of those things, and he's been accurate. It isn't a case of me putting a septic system here and a leach field here. In order to meet the safety requirements, it's kind of like this, which is 1 or 2 properties over. And I thought that not being a technician was, wait a minute, are we setting a precedent here? Jack said that he's been out there and there's plenty of room for if in future years, these cottages here want to
Right.
go through the same process. There is geologically and acreage-wise plenty of room, so that's why I seconded the motion. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There's 2 copies, so. yes.
So we're gonna sign twice, huh?
Yep. The next item is our application for a wetlands permit to the state of New Hampshire for the Melvin Wharf. This is retaining wall repair and replacement and dock structure repair and replacement.
So that's Union Wharf, not Lake Street?
Melvin Wharf, I'm sorry.
Oh, Melvin Wharf where the ice damage was?
Did I say you?
So, and this is the permit by notification, right? Not by request.
Right.
Yeah. So I will move approval of that.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I guess it only requires 1 signature.
Yeah.
So,
And this is strictly work to replace pilings and structures that were damaged by the ice flow this spring.
and I think Jack was looking into, is there an insurance reimbursement to the town to do that?
Yep. The next item for signature is a notice of appointment to Mary Ann Lynch to become a member of the, fill a vacancy on the Capital Improvements Program Committee.
And this is a reappointment,
Or
actually.
reappointment, I'm sorry.
I'll move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And right of burial is the next, issue. This is a sale of a lot at the Town Hill Cemetery, lot F. Section F, lots 19. And it's been signed by the cemetery trustee.
I'll move approval.
We had I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, if we already approved it, is that?
We're changing it. Do you want a second and I'll comment?
I'll second.
Okay, we had originally approved this for the purchase of 2 lots. And we currently just want to buy 1. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just one.
Yeah, the other one's the
Old one.
voided contract. So that's it. Selectmen's updates.
I'll go.
Okay.
So the ad hoc committee for the swap shop met last Monday evening. And there were actually, I think the committee had like about a dozen people sign up. There were actually about a dozen and a half people at the meeting. It was a productive session. They laid out a number of objectives and pieces to work on. Several different individuals took responsibility for working on this piece and that piece. Things like if we're gonna have a swap shop, having volunteers available to staff it, the volunteer schedule, signage. I talked about things like best location for it to be placed, those sorts of things. So it was about an hour and a half meeting, and the committee is meeting again tonight at 7 p.m. at the townhouse. So there was a lot of positive energy in the group. And Clay was there and participated for most of the meeting.
Good. And that went well.
And yeah.
Because I had spoken to him at the transfer station. He had some concerns about the tenor of whatever meeting was going to happen, and I said, I think everybody's in a positive mood.
Right. And Philip Hunter stepped up as the chairman of the committee, and he did a great job running the meeting. And it tended to be a little wide-ranging at times, and he was good about
We followed your lead.
we have an issue that we want to deal with, so let's focus on this. I mean, the town has lots of issues, and we could spend lots of hours going off in all kinds of different directions, but let's try and focus in on this specific situation and deal with it. And so they started the process, gonna get together tonight to go further with the intent that they will have recommendations to bring to us, to this board. Not sure they'll be good for next week, but
I know we had set a goal July 1st.
right, and that's what they're aiming at. They want to be in a position to open this thing July 1st. So they're going to try and have recommendations to us at our next meeting, if not at the one following that. So we can deal with it. So that's that. Joint Loss Management Committee is doing their annual safety tours of town properties Wednesday at 1 p.m. This week and next week. What the committee does is breaks it in half, basically. So we visit half the properties this week and half of them next week.
Can I ask you about that?
You might.
You'll understand my logic in a minute. Is it the Joint Losses Committee to make comments about increasing safety in buildings?
The tour tends to look for safety hazards and equipment and building situations that maybe could be improved.
What I'll do is, I'm not trying to play judge for the defense here. After what happened in Virginia Beach, it's long been a concern of mine that the people who work in this building, for example, by themselves, have a safety button if there's an emergency. That's wonderful, I support that. But we now have technology. What if you're away from your desk, or what if after hours you're walking out to their car alone? I don't want to be an alarmist, but do you understand where I'm coming from?
Yes.
My motives are honorable.
I think this is a whole different sphere you're talking about, okay?
Yep.
And whether security in town facilities needs some additional addressing, maybe as a board we ought to look at, and I certainly would want to keep the police chief involved in that discussion. This is workplace safety as it relates
like
to
OSHA, right?
Yes, exactly. So workers and the equipment they use. This is not aimed at how we prevent an incident with somebody walking in off the street and causing an issue. The third thing that I want to touch on, and I think we have some correspondence in there, but we have a letter from the Wolfboro Community Access Channel executive director seeking a way to expand the programming that they do into cable system in town of Tuftonboro, and I think it has some merit with the following observation and caveat. A large number of people in Tuftonboro don't have access to cable. Some that have access don't use it because of other technology they use for their TV and internet. And I think there's value in the community access channel, but if we're gonna move more in that direction, it ought to be recognized that the primary way that should run would be on the internet and not just over the cable system, because once it's on the internet, then you're not tying it to people that have to tie into
They're not having to pay for it.
the cable system, right? Then you can get it, and anybody can get it anyway. So, and I will, I'll leave it at that, because just for further discussion.
Anything from you, Mr. Wood?
Yes. On Wednesday, I have a TAC meeting. I don't want to work at cross purposes with you, but I was thinking of speaking to the director and asking about the master plan update and all of that. And first of all, I don't want to be a lone wolf. I'm only one guy. I want to be part of a team. Do you understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah, well, and I know that the planning board is engaged very closely with them at this point, so, I mean, I suppose you could mention it to them, but it's...
I want to be positive and, as Larry the cable guy said, get her done, but I'm not looking to create issues and I have no agenda here type thing. So I was looking for some guidance and you've given it to me. The other thing is we visited the RIBs and I was wondering if anybody had any response to that.
Well, I'm still not completely convinced. I think that we need to settle a few issues. One is the planning board, the other is the conservation commission. I had no idea that they had restarted that, but I guess they have. They're pushing 275,000 gallons of effluent
Something.
out into that project. By my calculations, 85,000 gallons of that's hitting 19 Mile Brook. They dewatered the aquifer, I guess, for want of a better term, so that they could bring their capacity up. I don't know how it sort of defies logic for me. We're gonna get the same amount of rain or more rain or less rain, but around the same amount of rain every year. So emptying the aquifer of water, or letting it settle, or whatever it was that they were doing, doesn't really change the annual dynamic of that. So I'm not sure we were getting a full reading the day we were there, because they had reduced the capacities below. And still 86,000 gallons of whatever they're putting in there was going out into 19 Mile Brook. I also wasn't completely convinced by people from DES who I spoke with that all the chemistry somehow magically attaches itself to the sand underground. So the long and the short is I'm glad we have funded a baseline study. I did get the business cards of the DES people over there, so I think, and I did make it clear, I hope, that we need to be included in their permitting discussions. This is no longer a Wolfboro permit, this is a Tuftonboro permit, so we need to be involved in that. And they seem to be okay about it. I mean, I don't know how we can avoid the change of use, because at no point in the future, if they're allowed to go forward with this project, at no point in the future is any of that ground going to be available for low-density residential use. It's always going to be a municipal waste site forever.
But the town of Wolfboro has said that before they do any of the work they're going to do in the parcel in Tuftonboro, they're going to come to the planning board.
Right, and I think and hopefully the planning board at some point in time is going to hire an attorney because we have to establish whether or not that's a voluntary informational session or if it's an actual permitting session.
Right.
So,
And my understanding is there is a difference of legal opinion on that.
well, there's a difference of legal opinion by their attorney, who has made millions on Wolfborough's appeals to the Supreme Court. But reading the case that he's depending on essentially says that the only unpermitted use by by a neighboring municipality would be a solid waste facility. Well, the only reason that, and I don't, it's a poorly written decision by the court, but the only reason that was written that way is because the case involved a solid waste facility. And the court said you need to go through the permitting process. They didn't, I didn't see that they specifically exempted all other public uses of land from permitting.
No, I think you're right. I think the decision was not, yeah, as many decisions are, was,
Well crafted.
you know, pretty muddled in a lot of areas. So,
Yeah.
at any rate, but what I understood about the drawdown is that this holding pond that they have, they want to draw that. They want to draw that down so that when they get ready to do the additional trench and drain offs, they can shut off what they're pumping up the RIBs for an extended period of time while they refill this holding pond. So during the period of time they're doing construction, the water level within the hill is going to go down so that it will be, so they'll be able to do that construction with in soil that's not super saturated. But there's a lot of moving parts going on in this
Yeah,
project
sure.
in terms of
I mean,
trying to figure out how to keep the water from breaking out the side of the hillside. And, you know, certainly as we listened to the discussion, it was clear to me that the original, that as the design was done originally, there was no recognition that that geology that you had there and the ecosystem that you had there was in a very careful balance. That the slope of the hillsides, and of course there were assumptions made with respect to what was underneath the soil that turned out to be incorrect, but that the slope of the hillsides and the material that's there and the stuff that's growing on it and the amount of water that was in the soils was in balance, and that when they started putting more water into it, it didn't take much time before it was out of balance, and that's why it started sliding down the hill. So you look at a hillside out here and you think, you know, it's a hillside, but over the eons it's gotten to where it is based upon sloughing off of material along the sides from typical water table levels within the soils and all kinds of stuff that I'm not conversant in, but it's
I mean, I didn't see it much. I mean, it's just on a much larger scale, a leach field breakout, and you've seen those happen, I'm sure, at some point in time. And it's just that the leach field has been saturated and it can't hold anymore.
right.
And I didn't measure those holding ponds that they put up there. I didn't have a tape measure them, but they're not going to hold a week's worth of pumping from the town of Wolf.
No, it's the lagoon that they have.
Yeah, that's big.
Yes, and that's what he's talking about, drawing that way down so that when they get ready to start construction, they can shut off everything that's going to the basins
Right.
for an extended period of time while they fill up this lagoon, and then and give them enough time while it's refilling to do construction without having to put water back in the basins. It's, as I say, a lot of moving parts. Yeah. Sure.
Okay, anything else?
I don't know if this is appropriate to do it under correspondence or not, but I'd like to see the police chief submit his time slip. He is the only department head that doesn't. Can I talk about it now or wait till correspondence?
Why don't we talk about it when the chief comes in? When's he coming in?
End of the month.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here without him.
That's the other thing is I want to.
Yell at the chair.
Right. What I'll do is I'll make copies available to you, okay?
All right, yeah.
Thank you.
And let's not make this ambush politics. Let's inform the chief that that's what we're gonna be talking about.
Right.
I mean, if he's got a good excuse not to do it, then let's hear what
I
the excuse
think, I didn't know
is.
how to proceed. The other thing is you saw a note I had on the winter sand bill that was late, and I did some research, and I have some concerns about the winter budget. Can we do that when the road agent is here?
Yeah, I think we should, and,
On both these things, I want to be positive and,
well, as far as the late billing is concerned, I think that's the supplier's problem. We need to start enforcing the policy or having the road agent or on,
well,
there are a couple other ones that,
if the invoice was dated, and I assume it was received sometime around the 1st of March, so maybe just slipped through the cracks. But what I'll do is I'll make copies
okay,
of
so
it.
we will talk to the road agent.
And again, I just want to make sure we're paying our bills on time. That helps all the department heads. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm more concerned with how it's reflected in the budget.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, if we make a policy, we're not gonna pay our bills for 90 days, and that's one thing, but then we at least know what the budget looks like.
Yes.
Anything else?
That's it for that.
Okay, we've got, a couple of things in correspondence. Do you want to talk about the cleaning of the, we need to put this out, I think, if we're gonna do a floor cleaning. You got a couple of quotes, or, I'm not sure how we,
Well, you're talking about cleaning floors in the transfer station and a floor here.
Yes.
right? So, I guess I'm not sure why it's coming to us. This is something for the transfer station that Clay should handle, correct?
Yes, I sat down with Clay
Yeah.
and.
So is he gonna do it?
And the vendor.
so he wants it done?
It's something he wants to talk about.
Okay, then he needs to come in and talk about it.
Okay.
All right. We talked about the census last time. Jack's decided he's gonna participate in.
And apparently he does that on
Right.
an ongoing basis, so,
Yes.
yeah.
Who's this? Oh, LRPC is issuing a multi-tenant RFP for oil and propane at a group rate. They've attached a motion. I'm not sure that there's any downside to, let's see.
I think it's.
Oh,
it's-
yeah, we
it's-
agree not to shop around during the joint bidding process. Bid for further understand we are under no obligation to accept the joint bid.
You worked on this project?
Last year.
Yeah, it looks like it's just like last year. The timeline's a little later, I noticed, but.
Yeah, August 12th is the deadline. Or no, August 5th is RFP due.
Do you have any thoughts on it? It was good last year.
I think it,
We didn't participate last
we
year.
did participate,
Did we?
and we changed oil suppliers.
Mhm.
Okay.
And they had a bid, their low bid was from Eastern, who was our existing supplier.
Well, actually, their low bid was
Right.
from another vendor, but Eastern matched it, so, rather than change everything.
Is it the same vendor?
Well, this they have to go to
They're gonna
bid, we don't know
put it out
yet.
to bid to
Right.
multiple folks.
So-
So I would recommend that we participate in the process again.
Okay, so. I'm
Once the
gonna make a
bids come
motion.
in, we can either
Sure.
choose to participate with that or not. So I'll move that we participate again.
Okay, the motion that they're suggesting is the town of Tewksbury authorizes the LRPC to issue an RFP on our behalf to take part in regional propane and/or oil joint purchasing initiative. We understand this means jointly issuing an RFP to purchase oil and/or propane at a group rate. We agree not to shop around during the joint bidding process so that our group will have a stable purchasing volume for bidders to base their bid price upon. I think it's what I was looking for. We further understand that we are under no obligation to accept the joint bid price if it is not competitive for our town to do so. I made that motion.
You made the motion?
I just did.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, aye.
Aye.
All right, so that's done. You already spoke to the joint life safety.
Yep.
Okay, joint, this is the beach project.
Yeah, and do you agree to, I think you said, I forget the date that you said, it was obviously before
Right,
that
July
date.
1st.
So we want to open them on the
July
8th?
8th. So I had spoken to Jim Ryan at White Mountain Survey to extend the bidding period for the beach project, knowing that the beach project is probably going to, or definitely going to be done in the fall. And I'm going to make a motion that we extend that bidding process to the 8th of July, 7/8/19.
I'll second that.
Oh, excuse me, I think you did extend it already, but then as far as opening the bids, you did say the date, I believe, and I'd have to look if it's the 1st or whatever, but it comes between your meetings. So this gentleman wants to be present when you open them. I've told him already that you gave a date. It's probably in that email somewhere. So he just wants to know if you're opening them, when you're opening them, and I said probably on the 8th.
On July 8th.
Okay, so that's, I guess.
Sorry for the confusion,
I'll
yeah.
amend my motion that we're gonna open the bids on July 8th.
Okay, thank you.
Second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So visiting nurses is maybe not gonna give us flu shots, but Health Trust is gonna offer them on June 7th. Registration by June 7th, in order to schedule a clinic before 10/31.
Where will they be, Karen? Have the logistics been worked out?
No, but it's typically at the fire station, I'm sure it won't be a problem.
Yeah.
I needed your permission to,
Right.
I haven't registered yet, because I didn't know. Is that
Do
something
we
you want
need
to
to
do?
vote on this?
Is there any fee for the town residents?
Yes, theirs is a little more than visiting nurses was, that's why you ended up going with visiting nurses last year. But on the flip of the coin, visiting nurses said they didn't have anybody walk in to just pay. They all had insurance.
Mhm. And they may not be doing it this year. Is that
Right,
Right.
Okay.
and where this has a
So-
deadline of
So I will move that we
Okay.
go with
Health Trust?
Health Trust's flu shot clinic this year.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Fine.
Aye.
Aye. So there's an email from Paige Wilson concerning flyers for Lakes Region Planning Commission, HHW website. A design for keeping our lakes, keep our lakes region clean and beautiful. And it's a hazardous waste schedule for Belmont, Franklin, Guilford, Meredith, Bristol, Laconia, Center Harbor, Marlborough. I guess we're not in this. Yeah, we are Tuftonboro.
And
We
also,
have two dates,
Okay.
the 27th and the 3rd.
Right. So, is Clay posting this, or are we going to do this?
Oh, sure, yeah. They usually give them a nice laminated thing.
Okay.
This is just a preliminary one.
it's already posted.
Well, I printed one up and put it here, yeah.
They still can go to Wolfboro, but they pay.
Right. Yeah.
Matter of fact, several people have already gone.
Number of state bills, I don't know anything. We also got a contact, hopefully, did you read this as well, on the distribution of
Yes.
excess proceeds?
Just like legal advice.
We're aware of that. There was a Lakes Region Planning Commission meeting. Are you going to that
I plan to, yes.
on June 24th?
Yeah.
The
annual meeting, yeah.
Annual meeting. Chicken, hors d'oeuvres,
Do I need to give you some money to
It's
pay
panko
for it?
It's all
Roasted
set for you
chicken.
guys, yeah.
yeah,
It's a good time.
or stuffed manicotti.
Yep.
There you go. Are you gonna go, Bill, or are you?
I am.
Okay,
Yep.
so we need to post that. I'm gonna try to go as well.
Who's the speaker?
Sorry.
Who?
The speaker is Dr. Ken Killam.
Ben Killam.
Ben Killam, I'm sorry. I don't know what the topic is.
Bears, he's the bear guy.
He's the bear guy, so it's
Yeah.
bears. Are you gonna go? No, why you?
I don't know, I did go to the one when it was in Northborough that wasn't going for me.
Did they have panko chicken?
I didn't review the menu.
They had a choice
I
of
don't think,
things.
I don't think I ate there.
Okay, we've got a I'm sorry.
If I go, I should
There should
eat,
be
right?
more green
You can
folder.
have manicotti too, if you want. Robert. I don't know if they have anything for pescatarians, but
Where is this?
it's gonna be at the
It's in
Preserve at
Tamworth.
Chicorowa, 88 Filbert Road, Filbert Neighborhood Road.
The preserve it in
Tamworth.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not familiar with that place.
Follow the crowd,
Yep.
like New England Dragway.
Oh, panda cubs. He's gonna talk about panda cubs. Oh, I mean, have to bring a big hanky. All right, we've got a draft schedule for Selectmen's meeting for July through December of 2019 for public consumption. Both of my brother selectmen decided we needed to meet more often, so they've added some dates.
And I guess on the revised draft, Karen,
Mhm.
my only thought on December 30th,
See if I have that.
which was added in,
Mhm.
That's a
is,
Monday.
that's right in the middle of the holiday period, so some of us may very well not be around.
That's not on my schedule, it says no meeting.
Yeah, I've got no meeting.
I gave them, let me see.
Well, that's because you're not looking at the revised
Right.
that she gave you.
So are you thinking you might not be around Christmas holiday?
There's a good chance that between Christmas and New Year's, I mean, we can always have if we need to get together, we can get together, but just in terms of a regular scheduled meeting.
I have no problem with deleting that.
Let's make sure that
So we just need to make sure that we get
the meeting on the
everything.
23rd, we've got it pretty well dialed in.
Well, the 16th is the meeting, yeah.
I've got one on the 23rd,
You're looking at
December.
the old,
Am I?
you're looking at the
It
old.
should be a revised one, looks like this.
It
Says
should say
There are
revised
many-
531.
There are many schedules available.
I'm going by the 5/31/19, and there's no meeting
Okay,
December 9th.
so when's our last meeting in December?
The 16th.
23rd. Yep, the 16th.
16th. Yeah, that's pushing it, I think, but we have time to think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we've always had a few things that
That's right.
slip through the
So, you
cracks.
know,
and have to
if
be-
we, and as we've done in the past, sometimes we'll have a work session scheduled
Yeah.
to deal with it, so.
Yeah.
You know, meetings on the 16th, let's say we're going away for the holiday that following weekend, we can meet on Friday, the
Sure.
20th, 21st, and deal with stuff. And if there's something, an emergency, and I happen to be in California, you guys can meet without me too. I mean, that's not the end of the world.
It might be.
Before you move on, did you want to set a date about people's budgets just to get them thinking, or is that too early? I know you want to do everything earlier this year, so.
I'm gonna meet with the budget committee in June, so why don't we wait till after that meeting?
July, I
Yeah.
think it's July.
Is it July? I thought it was the end of June. Yeah, let's wait till after that one.
Yep.
Well,
And I
we've
know
done
you had a schedule there looking at the budget hearing.
Right.
And I had questioned having it on the 11th and suggested having it on the 4th, which is the beginning of the period at which you could have budget hearings. And then, which gives us plenty of time in case we run into issues. That's pulling it forward 1 week from.
So you're pushing it to the 4th?
The 4th is the first day that we can have a budget hearing in the calendar, correct? And I'm just suggesting that we schedule it then.
Right, and the last day is the 11th, or the 13th, I guess.
And I'll check on that too, because I don't know if it has to be so many days before town meeting, you know,
Yeah.
no longer than, so
Right.
I'll check.
Oh, I thought you checked.
Well, I didn't make it the 4th yet, I kept it on the 11th, right? That I knew was okay,
All right.
yeah. Because this has the 11th on it for the public hearing, right? And you want
Yes.
to bump it up, yeah, so I'll have
And
to
I'm
check.
suggesting if we can do it on the 4th,
Okay.
that put in the schedule
Okay.
there.
We've got a meeting this Friday, so Jim Beam,
Oh, no, he's just saying, that was just an update for you, that he's,
On Date Friday.
We've got an opportunity to participate in community development block grants, which I don't think we do. The county does it, but we don't really have any public housing or way to distribute the block grant money.
there's some more things in that green folder too.
I tried to find something that was relevant, and
There isn't anything.
the deadline was Friday, so.
Yeah, that's reactive. So,
So, yeah, we talked about the meetings.
okay,
Okay.
and then that one.
Okay, Diane has given us a draft of the financial report for the year ending 2018.
The auditor's report.
Auditor's
Yeah.
report, I'm sorry. Did we have a chance to go through that, or did you want to go through it, or?
I just looked at the summary page on the front.
All I did is look at the summary page.
Okay,
So,
so we've all looked at it.
Yep.
I'm gonna make a motion that we approve this draft for our final financial report for 2018.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye? Okay, so that's done. And,
And in connection with that, I do think we ought to have a sit down with Jack and or Diane on that reconciliation issue
right,
on the accounts.
it's
It's come up before, it's come up again, so what do we need to do to get to a point where what we're doing is consistent with what the auditors.
Okay, so can we think about having Diane and Jack in at our next meeting? I don't think we need the auditors here. do we?
No. This is, I think this is internal. This is the way that, that the treasurer and
Bookkeeper.
and the bookkeeper
Reconcile.
deal with this stuff. Yeah.
Can this be done at a work session when we're signing checks?
Sure, I mean, whatever's good for them. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think it needs to be on Monday.
Right.
And there's nothing confidential about the auditor's report, it's a public document, right?
Right, we just voted to remember it. Who wants to do the tough number of times this time? Okay, well, it's your turn. Is it my turn?
Yeah, it's your turn.
Okay, then I'll do it.
Good.
All right, it's gonna be,
You do a nice job.
all right, fine, as long as you guys don't get upset.
No.
Okay, so I'll do that.
I hate to tell you this, but there should be more.
What? Jesus. Okay, I got
What-
buildings and
what are we
maintenance,
looking
we
for?
decided not to.
About increasing email webmail storage. for
I
now.
didn't see that in
Yeah.
no. Did
I
you,
didn't see
did you
it.
put it in this file? No, I mean, I've seen the emails you've been sending back and forth, but I didn't see it in the
What do
action
you need?
items.
You need
Well, I'll
more
just explain,
space?
it's, sorry, I guess I apologize if I just put it in there. So webmail storage is like a backup storage to the current way that we do email through Outlook or other ways. Yeah, that as well too. I was gonna ask about. But,
This? No, we already talked about it.
Okay.
Yeah, Chip will follow up. I'm actually going there tonight.
oh, perfect.
So go ahead, keep going on the
Anyway, that might be it, I don't know. But, sorry.
community access.
So anyway, we currently pay a small amount for webmail storage, but we have a very limited amount, 2.5 gigs for all our users. I've talked with Tom Albert, our IT person, as well as the way email accounts are set up, and he really thinks we should be set up a certain way, differently than we are now.
Here it
It
is.
recommends that we all have a gig of email storage, and it would increase our bill $95 a month. Oh, did you find it? Good. And I didn't know if it's something you want to do now or look at for budgeting next year, because it's not
Who
budgeted.
are we storing with? Is-
Title Media,
That was First Light.
they've,
Yeah,
it changed
First
names
Light.
again. Yeah, they've been
So
Title
that's the
Media for about a
same-
year.
Is it, so that's who we get our email
Yeah.
through?
So what are we paying now?
What did it say? It was a small amount, right? What is it?
$95 a month now, or
It's not much.
forward,
is it?
16 a month is what
Yeah,
we're paying.
paying nothing there.
I am confused.
Okay.
Plus the 16, so it's $111.
For all users, we share 2.5 gigs of email storage. This would increase everybody, each individual user would have 1 gig each.
And how many
And it's a
users are
good
there?
Pardon?
How many users?
Does it say? It's $5 a user, so.
So we currently pay $95 a month for everybody, is that right?
No, 16, is that,
16.
yeah, so it's quite a little
$16
hike.
a month?
It would go up to 95 to have a gig for each person.
Do we need everybody to have that much more?
Well, that's a good point. Probably not.
I don't think Dennis needs to have gigabytes worth of email. does he?
That's a good point, yeah.
And this isn't through our cable company? Isn't that where we get our web service?
That's for internet service, correct, but not for our email hosting or our website hosting. It's kind of a whole different type of service.
Really?
We use the cable to get to them, but,
Right.
We use a different email service?
but, yeah, from the host for the website.
Mhm.
All right. So this recommendation is from Samantha Cross. What is what does Tom say?
He thinks we should all have a gigabyte each and all be on a different process with most of us are on what's called POP3 right now, and he feels like we should all be on iMapping, which is a different way to set up email accounts.
And does this do that?
Tom can help us with that, but adding a gigabyte per person is what we need to make it all kind of mesh.
So what's our impact this year?
It would be 95 increase a month.
So
An additional $95 per month.
Correct.
All right, so if we implemented it now, then that's $700 this year.
Right, so I didn't know if you wanted to wait and on it.
Well, I'm still not clear whether or not we need everybody in the
Right. Good
place
point.
to have a gigabyte.
And I can talk to Tom about that.
Okay,
Okay.
great. So you'll report back to us.
Lloyd was gonna ask something too.
Yes, I am thoroughly confused.
Okay.
How many people currently do we store information for?
I don't have it offhand. Is it 29 or 19? It says on the.
And is there anyone on the list that is no longer connected with town government?
No, I've taken care of all that.
The next thing is, how often I understand that our computer files get downloaded occasionally, right?
Mhm.
What is that schedule?
Every night we have to get backed up.
It's automatic, right?
Mhm.
And it's stored off-site, correct?
Mhm.
Okay. The next thing is, anything to do with computers, I'm going to reiterate what I said last year. I like the global approach. And it fell flat as far as I'm concerned, because there were 3 departments that came in well after the budget was in. Oh, this is going to happen, and that's going to happen, and we had to scramble and find money someplace. And since then, this year, committees have come in. We didn't know it at the time, but our computer failed, and
Well,
we need
just
a new
to,
one.
just so you know, I have communicated with every department each year about what their schedule is and what our IT guy recommends.
Right.
If they choose whether or not to put it in their budget, I don't have control over that.
That's
But secondly, the
I do-
Windows thing came upon us later.
I do realize that each department has some unique issues.
Mhm.
For example, if the fire department needs to do its reports a certain way, so they're HIPAA controlled and go through the fire marshal's office. If they don't do it that way, they ask for a grant for forestry. Sorry, you don't do your reports the way we want it. Now, I'm oversimplifying it. Also, we have a police department that needs to interface with, the county. And unfortunately, there's still dead spots that they press the button and go to exchange information, and it doesn't happen. So.
Yeah,
That's not a
this
computer,
is
that's not a computer's issue.
Right. Now, that's not our fault, but, what I'm doing is, how can we put money in the budget and pay for things so you, the fire, the police, everybody can do their job? My motives are on over here.
And this would be for everyone, this would be a global approach for everyone. And in particularly, the police department has the need for a lot of storage because they do have a lot of
Yes.
pictures and things that we'd like to have back.
Yes, I didn't realize that pictures take more
Absolutely,
resources, yes.
So you're gonna research it a little more.
to see if we
Is
can.
this horse dead yet, or are we gonna still kick it? Okay, so you'll be back?
Yeah, maybe we cut it a little bit, probably
Thank
would
you
give
for
time,
that.
maybe a little.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to put out a general public notification that we're doing a reevaluation. Did you guys have a chance to read?
Yep,
this?
yep.
And I think it's pretty straightforward. It gives you a timeline and what goes on during those.
And that was noticed a while ago, right? Yeah.
On the website, but first a resident called in and said, I recommend you put it in the paper, and I said, oh, that's a good recommendation, I'll ask this.
That's fine.
So
So-
I'm gonna recommend that we put this in the
Like an advertisement?
local paper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. That's all I'm doing today. And,
I had some follow-up on correspondence.
sure, go ahead.
The public notice for June 8th, the property auction, we requested a police officer to be there for traffic. Has that been, any feedback from the police department on that?
I haven't been told anything.
Yeah, just remind you that
Okay.
we need to have it there.
The other thing
Are
is.
you gonna be there, by the way? Chip, you gonna be at the auction?
I'm gonna try on Saturday.
Yeah. Well, one of us needs to be there to sign the
Right,
I'll be there.
purchase and sales, so.
yeah, then I'll be there.
Okay, perfect.
The other thing is I have a copy of some correspondence, May 16th, from the chairman of the cemetery trustees about a payment plan. Has there been any response to that individual?
Yeah, didn't we handle that last time in our non-public? I thought we did.
I'm trying to remember, she's met with, didn't Sue speak with one of you one day?
Didn't speak
And
with
she
me.
was gonna talk to her, how did that end? I think
That's
she was
right.
gonna talk to
Yeah, she
her
was gonna
board,
talk.
right?
Right,
Right.
right.
And
Okay.
did she talk to the?
I don't know if they've met since then, to be
Okay.
honest with you. Yeah. So I don't know if that one, I don't think that's updated yet. Did you wanna unseal those non-public minutes?
Yeah, that's what it's gonna do next.
Okay, it should be right underneath the green folder.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion that or start out by saying we've all reviewed the non-public minutes from the most recent past, I think back to 12/17/18. And I'm gonna make a motion. If you wanna amend the motion, I guess we had Bill and I are in agreement on all of the minutes, but Lloyd has a problem with 2 of them, so.
Those two, please add.
Okay,
You're okay?
Yes.
so I'm gonna move that we unseal the non-public minutes from 4/1/19 at 8:30 a.m., 4/22/19 at 10:48 a.m., 3/22/19 at 8:31 a.m., 3/18/19 at 8:52 a.m., 3/18/19 at 8:30 a.m., 3/12/19 at 3:18 p.m., 3/4/19 at 10:13 a.m., 1/14/19 at 11:08 a.m., 1/11/19 at 8:30 a.m., 1/7/19 at 8:35 a.m., and 12/17/18 at 8:30 a.m.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Just to clarify, was the second one March 22nd at 10:48?
March 22nd at 10:48.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
I'm gonna give you back the list anyway, so.
Thank you.
Any other business?
I have a comment.
Sure.
Tristan. Anything you do with Spectrum/Time Warner in the future, whether you have a non-public, public, emails with lawyers, okay, I want to be involved. I went through this system several years ago. We're not going to do it, we don't need a lawyer this time. But I do want to sit down and I do want to discuss A to Z, everything that's in that contract before you make a decision. The contract ends in 22, it was initiated in 12. I've given you people copies already, and I've had a discussion with Karen that another copy of the contract had shown up and was
Yeah,
revised.
we don't know where that's from, yeah.
We don't know where that came from, but I had given you the corrections. It's on a CD, and the corrections were made in red. Where that information came from, I don't know. I don't want to prolong this conversation, but I do want to sit down and I want to get it right this time. And the only time that we're going to need a lawyer is when the 3 of you create a letter, sign it, have Sager come in, sign it, and then get Spectrum in here to talk with us, because they haven't, and they faulted on the contract as far as I'm concerned. Thanks for listening.
Okay. We'll certainly keep you involved.
Thank you.
The office in Conway's been closed, right?
Not to my knowledge, it's still open. I haven't been up there.
People tell me they call and call and call and there's no answer.
I don't know about that, and our contact in the state that you and I got a hold of no longer exists. My contacts have long been gone, so we'll discuss it.
Okay, thank you, Joe.
Okay.
Did you want non-public for that review?
I don't think we need to.
Just-
No.
Yeah, not to look at it, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
typically we just individually look it over.
Yeah.
So if we had a question, then that would be
I
appropriate.
reviewed it, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Are you going to be working on Friday also?
Not that I know
Okay, thank you.
of, but we'll let you know if something changes.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.